Buddhist refuge, our short prayer, and then we'll go from there. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. And then, I think, in remembrance and honor of our Indo-Tibetan lineage, we'll say in Tibetan. Songye chudan soge choknam, Jeonju badu datni chapzu je, Dagi jinzo jipe zonam ki, Drola penji songye druparjo, Songye chudan soge choknam la, Jeonju badu datni chapzu je, Dagi jinzo jipe zonam ki, Drola penji songye druparjo, Songye chudan soge choknam la, Jeonju badu datni chapzu je, Daki jinso jipe sonam ki, Drola penji songye druparjo. Okay, so we'll do one more class on the 6th chapter, the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, this master spiritual treatise from 8th century. And I'm Acharya Shantideva, is Angel of Peace, and Dalai Lama's favorite text, mine as well, and hopefully yours. Is very practical advice. The 6th chapter is on patience, or in Tibetan, Zopa, Z-O-P-A. One of my early teachers, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, that's his name, Lama Patience. Zopa here means your ability not to be So let's talk about what Shantideva is doing. He's teaching us in this chapter how not to be irritated or frustrated or angry, and not just how not to, but why. And then when you do get angry, how you ought to react when you do get a little bit upset. So I think let's start with a couple of basic presentations of Shantideva, and I think they're very applicable to you, especially those of you who are in we'll call homestay, have the privilege. And some of this may be familiar to you if you're long-term students of mine, but for those of you who are newer to all of this, I'd like you to have pen and paper, please take a moment, and then write down something that has incredible expertise of some of your elected officials in providing you with accurate healthcare information. Perhaps that's gotten under your skin just a little bit. Perhaps some of the people running around without masks on, maybe that's got you under a little bit irritated. Maybe some of the people who want to keep you as you're losing money and the economy is going down, maybe those people are getting you going. Maybe someone in your household is getting you going. Hard to imagine. You've always wanted to have more time with the family. Well, oh boy, careful what you wish for, right? Anyway, and then see, what else could you? I'd also like you to maybe write down something maybe that you think could get you mad in the future. That would probably do it. Maybe a second wave. We reopen the country or the world, and then a second wave comes in when everyone was telling you to stay home, and some of you listened, some of you didn't, and then we have to shut down everything again, and even more people are unemployed or something. Think of something like that in the future. Husband leaves you for an older man, just something, something like that. something maybe not too far-fetched, like that one I just said. Something really crazy, that's impossible, like the president's actually a Russian agent, wow, that would, it's something really fantastic. Okay, so in other words, you can have fun with this too. As you can see, I'm pretty jovial about all. What is that cough? Anyway, pardon me. Okay, so you get mad when someone only 40 are dead. Maybe that does it. I don't know. Many things could do it, right? Pardon me. Don't worry about my cough. I haven't had contact with anyone, except the FedEx drivers and the UPS drivers and the post office and the grocery store delivery people. That's it. So. But in any case, you got something that makes you angry? Go ahead and just write that down. Just one thing, you got that? Yeah, that really gets you going, That really gets you going. So Shanti Davis, he's wanting to say, well, let's explore it. How should how ought you react when things are going bad? What's the proper response? And one of the things he's fond of saying, is if there is something that you can do, why worry? I was going around saying this, but it comes from this text. And this is very much reminds me of Marcus Aurelius or Seneca. These are very, very much like what you call Stoic, Stoic philosophers saying such things. If there's something you can do, why worry? And if there's nothing you can do, why worry? And so, let's take a look at that. What does that mean? Take a look at what you wrote down, a thing that makes you, or seems to make you angry. Let's examine one. So let's say your husband leaves you for an older man, right? Let's have some fun with this, all right? Or maybe 1 million Americans will die unnecessarily. And then we have to reshut everything down again. And then some states, they won't swallow their pride and they won't shut down again, and they'll just keep going, and then one day, like with HIV, maybe 10 to 15 years, this will be manageable. Something like that could happen like that, right? And they're certainly not going away like SARS. Yeah, that much looks to cause destruction. But we could end up with let's say a million dead when this whole thing is said and done, maybe more. Right, very, very possible. Now, if that were to happen, necessary, right? Not didn't have to happen, but very well could happen. My question is, would you be angry? Would you be angry? Let's just take that as a hypothetical, that you would be angry. Let's just go ahead and say that would definitely be cause for anger. An unnecessary further spread of a pandemic, right? That would definitely be cause for anger. But let's examine if that's true. Because I wanted to use something. People, you always use interesting examples. Million or 2 million Americans, and then worldwide, maybe, I don't know, 50 million. Third world, underdeveloped world, right? And was it necessary? But let's say that it happens. Let's say that it happens. A lot of suffering, a lot of people not just dead, but a lot of people really, really sick, and and their organs are really damaged and not going to recover. Kidneys really being impacted, liver, even if you don't die, you've got all kinds of illnesses. And let's say we discover, when this whole thing is said and done, that it was all unnecessary. That angry, not just sad, but angry. So let's examine it for a second. Just write down, I think it shouldn't have happened. I think that's a very, very widespread consensus, and I think a lot of people seems like very upset, very angry. I want to examine something. Shantideva, he's saying, if there's something you can do, why worry? And if there's nothing you can do, why worry? So let's break that down, what he means. He's saying that if you're angry, then it comes down to this. Then you are demanding, please write this down, that you are demanding that reality be different than it is. You are demanding that reality be different than it is. Now, the reality is there's 40,000 dead people, right, in America, 42,000 I think today, and worldwide. But pretty good, it's going to get a lot worse, globally and in the United States. Dead. But let's say they do. Let's say they do. Let's go ahead and go there. Okay, let's imagine. A lot of people we know, friends of yours, relatives, these are not just numbers now, right? People you know, and get really sick and die. 1 in every 10 nursing homes and assisted living centers is now impacted by this in America. These sort of storage facilities for the elderly. Now, if that were to happen, Shantideva is literally questioning, and I'm encouraging you to question, why would you be angry if it happened? And you would say, because it didn't have to. It was unnecessary. You would say it's because it didn't have to happen. It's unnecessary. But let's say that it did happen, and it was unnecessary. Let's say that. The question that Shantideva poses to you is then this one. Then why get angry? Why get angry? So please write that down. Why get angry about something that has happened? Or if it's going to happen, there's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing you can do. You can jump up and down, you can vote differently, but after you've exhausted your vote and all of your rants on social media, right, you've done all you can do. You've done all you can do. So the question is, why get angry? If we have to open up and then close down again, and then maybe open up and close down again a third time, perhaps even more, and the economy goes up and down, and you can't. No one wants to make any loans in this environment, and the country having a difficult time paying back its debt. All of these things could happen, right? Not even catastrophizing. These are some very thoughtful people thinking this is very that's it's well within the realm of possibility, if not probability, that this could happen. And of course the world has seen this before. This isn't the 30th time in the last 1,000 years that this. So it's nothing unusual here. What does it do? And Shantideva is saying that the reason is because you are egoistically, and this is the interesting part, you are egoistically demanding that reality be different than it is. And so let's say the reality is that 1 million Americans die, okay? 1 million Americans die. So if that were to happen, why get angry? What does it do? Does it change their death? So let's go through a series of questions that Shantideva is asking. and put it into a context that, could seem really inflammatory. All right. So if they all died, including some of your relatives and friends, change policy that has already taken place, if you want to even call it policy, right? Right. What is it, if 1 million people were to die in this country of COVID-19, this virus, getting angry, what is it, doesn't bring them back to life. It doesn't change policy. You still get your vote. You're not a potted plant. Right? And life will go on one way or another, and maybe you're one of the people who dies. And but getting angry, what does it do? Does it empower you in some way? Obviously it doesn't change anything. So it doesn't empower like change, because it's either happened or perhaps is going to happen. And, and you're one person and you can try to make a difference, and perhaps you can. And so if you can, if there's something you can do, then why get angry? Does that make sense? If there's something you can do, and it's not like anger is, the linchpin that causes, you can, if you think anger is, is the linchpin that's going to cause the change, then what if I said you could also, still vote peacefully, or you could still, instead of ranting online on social media, you could say what you want peacefully. It's not like people listen to you more if you get angry, on social media, or if you say it peacefully. You're not a potted plant. You don't become a doormat. That Shanti Deva is up to. If there's something you can do, then why worry? And if there's nothing you can do, then why worry? But why get angry? What does it do? It does change. Like when you get angry, what happens to your body? What happens to your breath? So write that down. When you get angry, what are the typical things? Let's see how well you know yourself. This is mindfulness of body and mindfulness of breath. So when there's anger, what happens to your breath? And does it shorten? Does it get longer? Do you breath hold? Does the temperature change? What's it like? What happens to the breath? Mindfulness of breathing under the influence of anger, like under the influence, like you're intoxicated, right? What happens to the breath under the influence of anger? So bring up the angry statement, 1 million Americans. Right, on fire. So what happens to desire, raga and dosa? What happens to the body? Where do you feel tension? Please write that down. Feel it first and then write it down. Tension anywhere. Breath changes and tension in the body. And then if you were to imagine yourself, like you're watching the news and you hear 1 million Americans, if we finally crossed the 1 million Americans dead mark, and someone, says it was all unnecessary, or, you have like Sean Hannity and says it's all it's the Democrats, that's why. It's always the Democrats, the liberals, and Rachel Maddow is going to blame the president, and, whoever you listen to, someone's going to be blamed, and you're sick of the blame game. Imagine that. Imagine you're, and you just and you hear that 1 million, we turned the, and then imagine there's a mirror in front of you. What does your face look like? So write that down. What happens to your facial muscles, please? Now, mindfulness of body, still on this. We want to see how well you know yourself. What happens to you when you get angry? You get a little furrow in the brow, maybe some pressure in the temples, maybe a wrinkled forehead, maybe clenched jaw, Maybe you feel like pins and needles in the cheeks, maybe you turn red. What's it like when you're angry? And then my other question, this is mindfulness of mind. We call it Chitta Nupassana in Sanskrit. So, what is the mind, not what you're thinking about, but what does it feel like in there? And it's dead. Unnecessarily. And people still playing the blame game. Right. What's it feel like? Does it feel warm and spacious in there? Hmm. Probably not, right? Relax. What's it feel like? What does it feel like? Maybe like molten lava in there, tension, confusion, swirling thoughts. Just write down whatever, there's no right or wrong answer. Just when there's anger, what happens inside the mind? What's it feel like? All right. Now, for those of you who don't know, but organ, and it's called the amygdala. Please repeat amygdala. Yeah, Amygdala. And that's the second oldest feature of the human brain, after the brainstem. And it governs fight, flight, freeze, and sexual fantasy. Its primary functions. It's what's most and and it governs this little other little feature of the brain called the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus regulates all types of interesting things like heart rate, for example, and muscle tension. So you wrote about this, in the body. How many of you, you talk about tension in the body? Maybe a light sweat break, a little perspiration breaks out. The secretion of the 4 primary stress hormones: cortisol, adrenaline. You're in fight mode. You're angry. What are you supposed to do here? And then, of course, some of these little stress hormones that I just mentioned, cortisol, adrenaline, these things are addictive in of themselves. There's good science behind this now. So it explains a lot in terms of people who are always involved in drama. Like some of you I speak with, and you have episodes of calmness. You don't have a lot of calmness. You have, sometimes I'd say people have dramatic episodes. Some of you don't have dramatic episodes. You have episodes of calmness because most of your life is filled with drama. And I think you know who you are. I mean, there's always some swirl happening around you. And a lot of it is just, addicted. And especially early on in life, things are a little bit rocky. Those of you who grew up around a lot of turmoil and screaming and yelling and hands moving around, like if you were grew up in an Italian family or Italian Jewish family, a lot of hand gestures and a lot of ups and downs. And so, later, if you don't check this, then through life, you tend to recreate these dramatic patterns over and over again. And you literally feel uncomfortable if there's no drama taking place, It's like it's strange, like almost like walking on eggshells, like you're waiting, for the next shoe to drop even. It's like you can't, it's like we talk about being at ease with unease, as a primary development of a spiritual journey and psychological well-being. But for many people, the most difficult part of the journey is not developing ease with unease, but literally developing ease with ease. Which sounds like, how could anyone have difficulty with that? And I don't think for a minute or two that most people will have difficulty with that. But many people have difficulty maintaining ease with ease. And I know some of you, a lot of you. And I've never known any of you, or many of you, to ever have experienced prolonged ease, and it's like, now, you may not think that's a big deal, but should a person like that really, should they be in positions of leadership? People who are lots of drama all the time, should they be in positions, like, should they be maybe raising kids? Raising a pet? uh, if you have a lot of drama in your life, you may be one of these people. You might want to think about, like, if someone's addicted to drugs, are you addicted to, you can call it drama, but really addicted to adrenaline and cortisol? Would So there's a couple of things I'm bringing up here, and one is, what is the reason why you're angry? And you can see very clearly what Shanti Dev is up to. If the events happen, the events happen. But the demanding that reality be different than it is, demanding that reality be different than it is, that's a very interesting idea. What does it do? I mean, it doesn't change reality. It doesn't change reality at all. So, my mother and I, we've been we've been together more than 50 years now, but for the last 20 of watching this evening, she's been practicing. She's been coming to my classes, and she's done many 30-day retreats and 10-day retreats and weekend retreats, and I would say very serious practitioner. And every day she practices. She contemplates this, and about death and impermanence, and that's our daily contemplations about the machinations of the mind that we call karma, cause and effect, and the defects of worldly life we call samsara, and through this journey of hers in Dharma practice, she's had lots of ups and downs, change of jobs, change of relationships, and she's done really an excellent job applying Dharma to her life. And now she's coming into the winter of her years. And as many of you are, and hopefully many of you will make it that far. And here we have, the typical situation. What happens to a body, if it's around for 70 years everywhere. I mean, I know that there's different beings that it doesn't happen to, but generally what happens, you start hitting 70, what happens? Yeah. So Linda, you're on now. My mother is on, right? So Linda, what happens to the body? You hit around, you get to be about 70 years old, what happens? Yeah.
Falling apart if it hasn't already.
Falling apart if it hasn't already, she says. Is it falling apart? Your body? It's falling apart. Speak a little bit louder. We can all hear. Come up a little bit.
It appears to be falling apart.
It appears to be falling apart. You had some. Oh, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so she told me about that, and we have a Dharma relationship, very a reality relationship. So I said, okay. So I said, "You gonna go get it checked out?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "You nervous?" And she said, "It's gonna." Like that. So she goes to get it checked out. And what happened, Mom?
Yes, indeed, that's what it is.
You had breast cancer, huh? Or have breast
No.
cancer. You have breast cancer, huh?
Yes, the body has breast cancer.
The body has breast cancer. All right, that's a very interesting point. Body has breast cancer. And then what happened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, forgot about that one.
You forgot about that one. Could that happen?
Pardon me?
Could that happen?
It did happen.
It did happen. And so, how are you doing? Yeah. And she said she's just a body part, which is what we train in. You know, for decades we train like, you know, am I my body is a primary meditation. Am I the body, or do I have a body? You know, and undisciplined, untrained minds always think that they are a body, or they have a body, and they alternate, you know, frequently. You know this, all of you probably know this. Sometimes you act like you are a body, and sometimes you act like you have a body. Isn't that right? And then we have this practitioner over here, my own mother, who's being very candid, you know, this evening, and talking about her cancer. Now, a lot of people get angry about all of this, but my mother didn't. She didn't demand reality be different than it is. And I swear, no, not a moment of anger. I ask her every day, how are you doing? How are you doing? How's it going? And I'm looking for some anger here, or some anxiety, you know. So what happened? Was that right?
I don't know yet. I mean, I don't know what the prognosis is yet.
But the cancer has spread?
Pardon me?
The cancer has spread a little bit?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Maybe into lymph nodes?
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe you have to get radiation?
Yeah. Good possibility, yeah.
And that you could lose all your hair?
From chemo, yeah.
From chemo, yeah. You gonna be okay with that?
Yes, there's a lot of upsides to that.
There's a lot of upsides to that. What? Like what? What's the upside to that?
Not having to fix your hair all the time.
Not having to fix your hair or color it all the time, that's true. You know, you could look like me when I was a full monk, right? You know, have that certain monk appeal, that sort of, you know, there's sort of a pizzazz, I think. You know, your head glows under the right kind of lighting conditions, for sure, right? So, making you appear as though you have an aura. I know it's like my friend Casey, he also has a bald head. Frequently people,
Casey.
yeah, people tend to think he's monastic, but he's just bald. But anyway, you're not angry, are you?
No, there's not much point with that.
Well, if you're trying to survive, you know, because you do have a reason to live, you have path and purpose, you do a lot of good work in this world, you know, you're not just sitting around like television, right?
Well, these days I'm not sure. There's a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Getting angry wouldn't change the cancer, right?
No, and in fact, it could be detrimental even. Yeah.
It would be detrimental, and not could be, it would be, because you'd be secreting cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, primary stress. Yeah. So these, this isn't really what you want when you're trying to get better, is it?
No.
And did the cancer hospital tell you that you probably want to do a lot of meditation right now?
Haven't gone through that with them yet.
But didn't they offer you some meditation programming?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who wants to have a lot of stress hormones when you're trying to get over cancer,
Yeah.
right? Now, and thank you for your candor. And I asked her before tonight's class if I could bring this up, and she said it was okay. She's probably regretting that now, as you know, as a few 100,000 people are going to watch this thing. But I don't really think, in fact, I think this is actually very beneficial for hundreds of thousands of people to hear that there's no need to be angry. It doesn't change anything except take a look at what you wrote down. It only changes your breath and your body, the way you feel, but it doesn't change reality, does it?
Yeah.
So everyone, take a look at what you wrote. Does reality change when you get angry, or does it just your breath and your body? And then when you get angry, Shantideva in this chapter, he says that cause for more anger. And you get addicted to feeling all jacked up and, and really tight in the body and the breath and the mind, then there's a tendency to return to that. And that's, of course, exactly what modern medical science says as well. You're just training yourself in behaviors. You're just training yourself in behaviors. And this one, I would say, if I were to ask you, is it a rational or irrational statement on your part to demand that reality be different than it is? Is it rational or irrational, to think that, a 70-year-old woman should not have cancer? First of all, has cancer. Is it rational to demand that she not have cancer? I mean, now think this through. If she has it, it's ridiculous to think she shouldn't have it. If the breast has been removed, it's irrational to think it shouldn't have happened. If the cancer has spread to the lymph nodes, it's irrational to think that it shouldn't have happened. Why? Well, because it did. She's still going for treatment. It's not like because she's not angry, she's disempowered. She's still going for treatment. So let me ask you, let's say a million Americans die, in the next few months, next year, next 12 months, unnecessarily. Well, clearly, thinking that it's not going to happen, but it very well could. Many people in Georgia, and many people on the beach in Florida, and many people in downtown Denver, right? And then, of course, does it make you mad that those same people will probably want hospital beds? I mean, it seems like, maybe you think that if they should sign a release form, if they're going to go out in public and not wear a mask, they should also have to sign, right, a form that says they should not get treatment for being so stupid, right? What do you guys think? Everyone who goes out in public, without a mask on, who thinks that this is all just some sort. I wonder how the plague got around way back when. Know who actually did it? It was probably the Democrats, right? Or the Chinese. No matter what, getting angry changes what? I mean, let's say it was the aliens. It was people from Atlantis and the Jews with the Rothschilds. They all got together with the Freemasons and started the coronavirus, okay? All right, now that you know that it was the Jews with the Freemasons, and who killed Castro, and they're all at Area 51 plotting your destruction. Even if that were all true, for all of you who watch History's Unsolved Mysteries at 3 in the morning, you all know, the real secret, the real truth. Okay, let's say you do know, and everyone else is just, you know the real truth. Same people who killed Castro, and you guys know who that was, who started this one, right? Now that you know the real truth, why get angry? I mean, if they did, they did. So all of you conspiracy crazy people, you know, go ahead and be crazy. But my only question to you is, if you're going to be crazy, why get angry? So go ahead and just be crazy without the anger. You know, if you know who really started it, it was in a lab in Wuhan, and it was a bat, you know. To do now that you know it was a bat in the Wuhan, lab, and it was an accident, or it was biological warfare, and it was the Jews, and with the Egyptians, with the Atlantis people, with the Castro, Kennedy. You guys know who did it, right? Probably Putin and Trump together, separated at birth. But even so, for all of you geniuses out there who know what's really going on, why get angry? I'm only after your anger. That's it. A million people may die, they may not die. Any of it. Georgia, I guess you'll be waiting in line, you know. I mean, if you're going to be, intelligent or stupid, why get angry? Cause yourself physical pressure and tension, and certainly you're no fun to be around. Yeah. Can be said peacefully. No? I mean, if you think it was the aliens who caused this, then you can peacefully say that. You can peacefully go like this. Ready? It was the aliens. It was the aliens. You don't have to go, it was the aliens. You can just, it was, if you think it was the Chinese, then you say it was the Chinese. If you think it's Trump's fault, yeah, it's Trump's fault. Get angry. Yeah. Why get upset? If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. But my only question is, why get angry? And now, let me ask you another question. Why not get angry? Well, why not get angry is easy, because it doesn't change reality. It only changes the way you feel. It makes you want to be happy, and being angry is the opposite of happy. And so that's why the very thing that you want, which is also those four reasons for most major types of cancer: high blood pressure, bone density. Not a good stress hormone. Yeah, not a lot of good. No. So here you are, and I'm questioning. What is the benefit of this? You have to admit it is the second oldest feature of your brain, and now you have this part. Go ahead and put your hand up here. This is your prefrontal cortex. Up here is associated with your ability to reason, and to ask questions like, why get angry, for example? When reality has already happened. This is this part of the brain operating now. And it's asking like, since this has already happened, why get angry? This is what animals don't do. They just keep getting mad. This is what you can do as a supposed human, humanoid, Homo sapien, right? You can use this part of the brain to question this part of the brain. You can use this part of the brain to go, really? I mean, is this really necessary to get angry? What does it do? Besides, demands should not have happened. Your own demands should not have happened. But the problem is that they did happen. Yeah. What's it doing? And of course you don't like feeling this way, so let's see how intelligent you are. You know, since you don't like feeling this way, what do you do when you get like this? Come on, write down what are your normal responses? You know, when you get angry, irritated, frustrated, how do you typically react? Do you shut down? Do you lash out? Do you have strategies? You know, do you go for a walk? You know, with the mask on, obviously. You know. Weed, you know, Colorado, you go check that box, right? You know, you do mushrooms and smoke marijuana. Right? Yeah, you think you're clever, right? You know, stir up the pot a little bit. Maybe you keep it quiet. You know, you get passive aggressive. You know, you walk around and give everybody the silent treatment, like when you were 4 years old. You know, super intelligent, right? You know, you think it's not anger if you don't say anything. If you just shut down. You know, you walk around in your house, you know, with your husband or your wife or your kids, you don't say anything. You know, called the angry roommate scenario. You know. And you say dumb things to yourself, you know, I'll stop being angry when they change. Hold your breath on that one. And don't forget when they change, it's because you were upset. Yeah, you don't need to write that. Yeah. And not, you know, maybe you got that out of it. Certainly you didn't command anyone's respect because you got angry. These are all the things, all so much more. Raise your hand. Yeah. Woo! If they hadn't gotten angry, you want. You, or they lose respect for you. Just because they stay away from you. Now, so what did you think? So 1 million people die in the United States unnecessarily, and which would be really be unfortunate. I mean, really sad. You know, unnecessary. But getting angry changes what? It won't change your vote, right? And you're not going to convince any Republicans, you know, like you screaming in their face, right? Are you stupid? You know, and they're all, you know, minds that you count that high. Yeah. Now, if you're a Republican and you're looking at all the what do you call them, libtards? What are your favorite snowflakes? When you call them names like that, think of how many. Now, for all of you Republicans and Democrats and Independents, everybody, go ahead and put your hand over your heart, please. Come on, just like you did, States. Say, repeat, United States. The United States, except for the middle. Now, under one nation, except for the middle and the south. No, 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 no. Come on, keep your hand there. It's fun. You know, or go like this. You know, if you're from top. No left coast, no right coast. One nation under God, except for the left coast. So, what part of United did you fail? California, Colorado. That's what I thought. Scotia, right, right. Or at least the Northwest Province, Northwest Territory, you know, or at least Toronto, or Manitoba, or at least those French people over there in Quebec. I mean, who needs those people together? And getting angry at each other accomplishes what exactly? I mean, if you're Canadian, or maple syrup, at least seemingly some better reason. You know, like what? What is there to get angry about that's rational? What would you? And he asks you about your religion. So write this part down. Next part of what Shantideva asks us to contemplate and meditate. He asks you about your religion. So please write down whatever that is, or those without a religion. Just say spiritual, or atheist, or whatever. But let's say you're religious. Let's say you're one of the Abrahamic people, and you got Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. You got a whole bunch of people, right? If you're the Buddha, if you're Zoroastrian, I don't know. Maybe if you're Mayan, Quetzalcoatl, or I don't know how you say it, but right. And let's imagine that someone, let's say you're Buddhist, for example, right? If you're on this channel, you're probably, chances are maybe you have some inclination. But what if someone says something really bad about the Buddha? Now, it's really, and Shantideva brings this up. I'll ask you something like, I want you to imagine the Buddha with me for a second, right? And he's somewhere, I don't know where he is, right? Maybe he's like in Tushita heaven, in a pure realm, and someone says something bad about him, like, you're not the real one, something like that. So just go ahead and imagine that someone offends your deity, right? Jesus or Yahweh, they say, oh, the Jews, or, Moses, or Jesus, or Muhammad. I mean, a lot of different ways that people get offended, as you know, when it comes to religion. And Shantideva brings this up. Now, do these guys and girls, we'll say ladies too, whoever the Wiccan gods and the divine feminine goddesses, right? Tara, Vajrayogini, whoever, do they get offended? Good, if you could just please write down or note your mental response. Does Tara get offended when you're like, bad Tara, bad Tara? She's like, oh, I can't believe it. And as a follower, of a religion, Christianity, being one, right? I mean, do you really think Jesus is like getting upset if other people don't believe in him or accept him, or even think, maybe even they think he's not even a real guy, he's really a Buddhist, he went to India, some Buddhists like to say that, all those good stuff, he went to India. Yeah. Do you think Jesus is offended by comments? The captain of benevolence, is somehow offended by the suggestion. Do you think God in heaven, please write down God in heaven is offended, if you say something in his name? He's like, bad, bad, bad. Because, on one hand, you say these deities are so powerful and so amazing, and all powerful, all knowing. according to you? No, just be, come on, let's. Right. They're up in heaven, they're all knowing, they're all powerful, right? The seventh. And then, literally eat. I mean, you can imagine the great offense they must take, right, to that. Question for you. I've asked Yahweh.
It's not possible.
Not possible, okay.
Not possible. How could it be possible if you think that God is beyond everything, that God could possibly be offended by somebody believing or not believing or saying something?
What if they say a bad name? They say his name and then they call him a bad name. Do you think he gets like super upset? Or just a little?
I doubt it.
Maybe a.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, thank you, Rabbi. So, why do the followers get so upset? Why do the followers get so upset? I mean, if you're a Buddhist, let's just say, guys, literally, you'd go crazy. They took our guy, the Buddha, and they put him on the back of people's jeans where they sit on them. It's called true religion jeans, Let's go through it together. So they put our guy on the back of people's jeans, and people sit on the Buddha all the time, all over the world. This was a very popular thing to do, to wear true religion jeans, Imagine that. Yeah, imagine that. Yeah.
Well, as Muhammad, you probably have a fatwa declared against you.
Of course. I mean, but no problem sitting on the Buddha. The Buddha bar, because the Buddha apparently, according to, these establishments, was quite the drinker, right? The Buddha bar, that's very famous. So what if we had like the Jesus bar, or the Muhammad bar? That probably wouldn't go over real well, right? You'll probably be like, that's really pushing it. Let's get a little touchy there, a little touchy. And then we have like the Buddha bar music soundtrack. That's very, very on downloads. What if we had and their books like this is the holy in America, you open up the bedside table, you pull it out, and there's a copy of the Bible, and people feel like a little bit like, all right, these are the good people, you got the Gideons here, they came around, they put the Bible. What if that wasn't there? What if you opened up like in our hotel, you open up the shelf and you got a copy of the Dhammapada, the quotations from the. Does that really offend you to know that you could come to a place in California, America, right? And you could open, you got your bed, and it's very nice and cushy, and then you open up the drawer, and you're thinking you're about to get a good night's sleep, you're going to quote a verse from Psalms or, Isaiah, but nope, you got quotations of the Buddha, right? How many of you are Dave ask questions like this? He's like, what's wrong with if their gods are so powerful and they're not being offended, then why are the disciples so easily offended? Are they really defending their religions very well by getting so angry all the time? Are they really? So this is from the 6th chapter. Shantideva he's questioning, like, are people really representing their traditions? Because I don't know of a tradition that doesn't talk about patience, that doesn't talk about the virtue of patience and not getting upset, holding your tongue. You may have heard a few of these things, right? So he says, well, you're not, by getting angry, you're not getting angry spiritually. You're not getting spiritually angry. You're not like, upholding the tradition that you live and stand for. In fact, you're not upholding these traditions. You're not upholding them. You're going against them. You're going against what are in these books. You're going against the words of these great beings. I'm pretty sure I can speak for the Buddha on this one when I say he's not offended. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the book, sometimes, in our tradition, we call it the Dharma. The Dharma, all the texts. We have a lot of books, a lot of texts. And like in our, and throughout the Buddhist world, you don't put them on the floor, don't put them on the floor. If you have a bookshelf, don't keep them on the lowest shelf, you put them on the top. We have these things as a sign of respect, we say. And I think that's very nice as, sort of a general rule. But if someone came in and walked over one of the books, we might say something, and I have plenty of times said, hey, let's try to keep some decorum here. But if someone said, nah, they just, jump back and forth over a Buddhist book, I want to know, is the book in some way offended? Is the book offended? And if we did that with the Bible or the Quran, are these books, is the Dharma offended? But in some way. Do they feel like I'm the Holy Bible, or I'm the Holy Dharma book, or, the Torah, the Quran? And are the books offended? Who's offended here? Because it's not the founder, the deity. It's not the book, And if you say that I don't agree with something that's in there, I want to understand, because a question, if you really think that those books represent the truth, is the truth offended? If you're sitting here with a copy of the Gita, you're Hindu, Ashtavakra Gita, you've got, really profound text. Is the text offended if you, spill wine on it? Is the ultimate reality offended? We already went through that one. Is Allah offended? Yahweh offended? Jehovah? Who's offended here? Okay, so the founders aren't offended. Dharma, Sangha. So Sangha. Maybe you're offending the Sangha, by doing this. Maybe you're saying, oh, the monks, like in a certain religion, maybe the monks are all pedophiles, for example. Now, is that really offensive? I would say with regard to the anger, which is why Shantideva is bringing it up. If it's true, it's true, and if it's not, it's not. People say many things about me. I say, okay, let's try it out. Because sometimes people, when I was a monk, I was a member of the ordained Sangha, and now I teach, as they say, we call white Sangha, meaning lay Sangha. So you can look up here, and then if you wouldn't mind thinking of me just some negative way, please, which you're not supposed to do as my student, but let's go ahead and just because you are my student, I'm asking you to do it, right? Or my friend, right? So go ahead. Think of me in some negative thought. He's so whatever. He's full of it. He's haughty. He's arrogant. He shouldn't be a Buddhist teacher. Whatever. Go ahead. Who is he? And why is he always dressed up in brocade? Why can't he just wear like a regular shirt like me? He should wear white as a spiritual person. whatever, you just come up with some crazy thing. Maybe you think of me as a male prostitute, please. Yeah. Can you see that? All right. That's the easy one, right? Yeah. Okay, now, if I were a member of the community, the teaching community, we say, if you've seen the nature of reality directly, if you've seen the nature, and this kind of Sangha, we mean the beings who are realized. And if there's a member of the community who's realized the nature of reality, or we call emptiness, can they really be offended? So the Buddha is not offended. The Dharma is not offended. Can a realized being, someone who's seen the nature of reality, and this is a really great way to kind of tell who's who, right? So think of some of the spiritual people you know that if like you say a little thing about them, they get super crazy. Imagine a politician with a fragile ego. Go ahead. Did you get one? That was easy, wasn't it? Okay, so that was a no-brainer. That was wiffle ball practice, right? Knocked that one right out of the park. Okay, so here we are. If someone's so strong, then they wouldn't be, you understand? They had a confidence about what they've seen, their experience. Do they easily get offended if someone disagrees with them? So you can say the reactivity is the sign of non-realization. Write that down. This is Shanti Davis. Realization. Yeah. Not realizing the nature of reality, which we call emptiness. Because you would only react to things you think are real. You understand? That have inherent reality. Which, as we talked about, last time we met, everything is changing. Nothing is what it seems. People there, one of my favorite things to do is I have a kids group that I lead. They're not really kids, they're young adults, 16, 17, 18 years old. And, growing up on the streets. And, many of them, when they come into the seminars, they think that they can be offended, they're still thinking they can be disrespected, they say. And it takes a lot of work sometimes to teach a young person that no one can offend them, that they are in control of themselves. A lot of work sometimes. But I ask you, if someone says something about you, called you a prostitute, or your mother a prostitute, something like that. Imagine that it's not true. I mean, if you're a prostitute, there's no point being offended, right? Everyone? If you're a prostitute, why would you be offended if someone called you a prostitute? You'd be like this, yep. Come on, imagine you're a prostitute and someone said, hey, you're a prostitute. So everyone go ahead and imagine, Rose, imagine you're a prostitute. Go ahead, Okay, Rose? We good? You're imagining? Now, if someone called you a prostitute, you wouldn't be offended, would you? Someone called you, if someone said, hey, your mother's a whore, and you thought about it, and you're like, yeah, she is, would you be offended? Not really. Okay, so you're only offended by what, then? And when it comes to realized beings, but I can juggle, but when but if someone called me a juggler, I say, yeah, I'm a juggler, part-time juggler, right? But I'm not a whore. I think that's pretty clear. And so there's nothing. So if someone called me a whore, I wouldn't be offended. It's not true. It's not. Yeah, I'm like, you know, kids. You know, someone says something about, I'm going to say something. I'm going to stand up. And what are you standing up for exactly? About. About my mother, I'd be like, oh, really? That's what you think? Oh, interesting. Nothing personal, right? Yeah. So if someone thought of your mother like that, I mean, what are you going to do? Are you get offended? This is like your mama, you know? I mean, if you were a realized being, could you handle a yo mama joke? Yes or no? Yo mama. Shanti Davis says, come on, man. Time to grow up and realize that, you know, either it's true or it's not true. And if it's not true, then why get offended? So if you're priest, get offended, right? Yeah. If he's not a pedophile and someone says he is a pedophile, then why? Or it's not. You know, I'm not saying don't, you know, not do something about it. You know, either change the rules of the game, you know, or maybe find a new religion or whatever. You know, but nothing to get offended about. I mean, either it's true or it isn't true. That's all. But no need to get angry is the point. Yeah. No one's disrespecting you by saying something that you aren't. Or that you might be. Maybe you are. Right? Maybe you know, maybe that's your career trajectory going forward. But at least right now you're not. Hmm. You know, like some lady said to me a few months ago, like, you think you're a spiritual teacher? I'm like, yes, some days not, you know, some days. I think you're terrible. I'm like, okay. I said, are you sure about that? She said, yeah, you're terrible. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, so she has ideas and thoughts, you know. And by the way, I looked at him like, you know, maybe she has a point. Maybe she has a point. You know, what's there to offend? Either it's true or it's not true. Yeah. How about you? Are you easily disrespected? Disrespect your family, your religion, your books, your priests, your rabbis? Then what kind of religion is it? What kind of truth is it if it's so offended? I'm just curious about that. What kind of truth is it that's so easily offended? It must not be the truth, huh? I don't think truth is offended too easily. No? What do you think? Truth offended so easily? Shantideva makes some good points, I think. And so he then goes even further. He goes moving from, like we call relative about me to you. What's your response? You know, do you feel like the need to, you know, defend me or something like that? I don't recommend it. In many ways, you're doing me a disservice because I'm the one who's supposed to taught you. I'm the one who taught you that, like, you know, just imagine, I'm not saying it's true for sure, but imagine there's been a little bit of realization over here on this side. Imagine, you know, and that you were my student, and that someone said something bad about me. Now, if you get offended by that, or you feel the need to defend me, what are you defending? You're really not defending me, because I don't care what anyone says. I know one guy, my teacher of mine, 1 billion people don't like him in China. He doesn't seem like he doesn't appear to have lost any sleep over this. There's 1 billion people in China think he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, he doesn't seem to be losing any sleep over this. Yeah. Reality is not offended. Well, at least not easily. Okay. So, Shantideva goes further. He says, let's do some meditation on this. So, you say you get easily offended, 1 million people die, all of these things have happened, might happen. Your mother has cancer and maybe she can't, because of COVID-19, maybe she can't go in for the treatment that she needs, because if she does, she may be risking her life, right? Very possible. You don't just get cancer now. And then you walk into a hospital right now. Now, if she were to die, and she will die one day, right? Linda, you agree to that, right? You're going to die one day? If it's not this thing, it'll be something else, Mom? Yeah. You agree? Linda?
Yes, I agree.
You agree? If it's not this, it's going to be something else?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're not eternal?
Okay.
If you beat this cancer away, I mean, are you going to wear like a survivor pin that you won? You're going to wear a pink ribbon?
Well, I don't know. No, I don't think so. I'm not sure yet. I don't know. Can't think that far ahead.
Can't think that far ahead. I can. So let me help. I mean,
Okay.
No one ever has survived. Wins. I mean, come on. Morbidity and mortality says, 80, is at your age, 80's it, I mean, you might go, we had, I think one of our grandmothers lived to like 102, but then again, we had a couple that lived to like 20. So, I don't know how you dollar cost average that one, but, you don't know. I mean, but I do know no one's going to survive. None of these bodies survive, and it's not offensive. It's just true. Nothing to get angry about, nothing to get upset. And that's where Shantideva goes a little bit further. And this is where my mother is very well practiced. So I encourage you to develop this practice too. He says, let's do a deeper contemplation now. The question, there's 2 of them, all right? Angry. It's like people, they say things about your body, right? Or you get mad at yourself about your body. That's what this is about. You're too fat, you're too old, you're too skinny, you're too this, you're too tall, your ass is too big, your boobs are too small, your hair's too this, you look like this, you look like the, I mean, you're angry, and then maybe if that's not enough, you compare yourself to other people, right? You compare yourself, come on, write down. Do you compare yourself, you think you're a body and you compare yourself to other. Maybe not now because you're quarantined, but when you get out, you'll be back at Starbucks looking at all the girls' butts and, thinking about, is my butt smaller than that girl's butt, or you're at the yoga studio or wherever. I mean, do you compare, you think you have a body, and then do you compare them to other people's bodies? And do you get offended when other people talk about your body? And it's a little bit weird because sometimes they talk about your body like, ladies, like you're an object, right? You don't like that. You don't like to be objectified. But sometimes you do, right? Sometimes, And so clearly sometimes, you like it, you don't, but either way, you're relating to yourself as a body, right? And then men, some of you feel like that too, which is very unnecessary of you, right? It's like my friend Steve Perot, a lot of women, I think, he thinks that a lot of women look at his body and objectify him, right? He's just so sexy and, right, and things like that. Yeah, I know the feeling, Steve, believe me. Right, me and my friend Ike Lichtenstein, everyone looking at us, right, Ike? Yeah. When you come on, you go through a little bit of this, right? So you think you are your body. Imagine that. Sometimes you act like it. And then, of course, about the health issues, that's also, you think you are your body. This is what my mother was talking about. You can get the coronavirus, you can get breast cancer. So at that time, you think you are your body. So let's do a meditation. Let's go ahead, and this is no joke, man. Bring attention, bring awareness down to what are called the feet. Left foot, right foot. Start with my left foot. How about that one? Start with your left foot. Not my left foot, your left foot, right? Bring awareness to your left foot, and what's called your left foot, and then see if you can find any kind of you in there. I know it sounds crazy, but just give it a whirl, especially if you're new at all of this. Bring attention, just do a scan, through the toes, the foot, anywhere in the foot, looking for you. And then your leg, your ankle, your calf, your knee, anywhere you look around, anything that could be you, And if you have your name tattooed on any of these parts, that doesn't make it true, okay? Just keep looking around. Someone asked me, what if my name's tattooed on there? Doesn't really change it. That's just ink. That's not a self. Then the other leg, other foot, you're looking around. Sometimes you look at your nails, on your feet, and you're like, man, I have bad feet. You think you are your toes. Right? At least you act like it. And then bring attention up. You're going up your right leg. And clearly think that you are your genitals. So let's explore that. Bring attention to your genitals, Casey and everyone. Look around in there, lady. Are you your pee-pee? Looking around, nope. Go around, switch it around, go to the other side, the buttocks, because you certainly act like you're an ass a lot. Any you in there? That's the right way to say it. In the gluteus maximus, or in some case minimus. Not many of you. Right? Then go up around, the stomach. Oh my, I have a big fat stomach, with a roll. Look around the roll. Maybe you think you're in there. Very odd. Go around the back, go up the spine. You're just looking for you anywhere in there. Chest, men, big chest. How many things you looked in the mirror, guys, right? You think you are your body. Where? In the bicep, in the tricep, in the wrist, in the fingers. Some of you, very presidential fingers, very small, right? You are your fingers, right? Then maybe in the throat, and then of course, maybe you, like my mother, she had to look at this, right? And I said, are you your breast? Are you your breast? Not your breast, you're not in there anywhere. Not in the ducts, you're not in the gland, not in the nipple, in the areola. You look around the areola, everyone. So you're not there. All right, so then you go in the throat, anywhere in the throat, And then you keep going. You look in the mirror. How many times you look in the mirror and you're like, Oh yeah, I look good. I am my face. So look in the face, right? Anywhere in the eyes, the ears. Some of you don't, you don't look so good, but you think you do, right? And then the other ones, you think you look terrible. Are you your face? Look around in the eyes, through the forest called your nose hairs. Look in there too, right? Look in the jungle, right? And your eyebrow. At this point, you guys haven't been to the one like a Vulcan, right? Look like a Brezhnev or a Spock or something. Right. Are you your eyebrows? You look in the ears, again through the forest, gentlemen, all the hair. Right. And you look around in the head and, are you your hair? And then you look at your hands, please, the hands, and it's like, are you hands, are you fingers, and you look at the nails, How many times have you identified, ladies identified as nails? Says something about you, right? So please write down it's a very strange question I'm asking you, but I think it's very unconscious. I understand. Are you your body? What did you find? Forget what you think about. What did you find? This is all about, there's a field test, and the field test is called the body. It's a hypothesis. And the reason why Shanti Deva is so interested in it is how many times have you are your body, that people have offended your body. They've said certain things. Like my friend Claire. She's a professor of feminine studies, or she was, till she met me, right? Claire, come on with me for a second. We got a rabbi, we got a feminist studies professor. Claire, come on with me for a second. Hit the button.
Hi.
All right, you're
not a professor, a student of feminist studies.
Oh, student. I thought you were teaching too.
No, I was in a PhD program.
Oh, okay. You're in the PhD program.
Aspiring.
You were aspiring to be a professor of feminist studies. Okay, all right. Yes. And then we met, and it didn't. Things sort of fell apart. I take great pride in that, by the way.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
My question, Claire, is being in the feminist studies program, PhD program. I mean, you heard a lot, I'm sure, about female representation as the form, right?
Sure.
Yeah. What do you think now? I mean, are
the field test has come back that that's not true.
The field test, which means the meditation that we just did.
Yeah, the meditation practice has come back that doesn't hold true.
Doesn't hold true. What if we, Claire, I mean, I'm not saying that you're a physician or a doctor, you're certainly no Trump, who's quite confident about his medical expertise. But, if you did a CAT scan, right, do you think you could find or an fMRI, video, magnetic resonance imaging, almost said reconnaissance, which would have been appropriate as well, right? Do you think if we did an fMRI that, we could find a Claire in the form anywhere? That is the form. And I pose this to all of you. Let's say you're going through the tube. Where is the person, somewhere, right? So my question to you is, have you been living like kind of a lifelong hallucination with Claire and everyone else, with me, that everyone's going around parading and pretending and masquerading as though they are a body? Is there any validity to this? And you don't answer this question intellectually. The question is answered as Claire just said, as a field test, as an experiment, and you have to do it daily. If you do it one time, clearly you've been operating as though you are a body for a long time. And a lot of you are involved in dance and movement. I keep hearing about this, movement and dance, and you're the dancer, right? You're the one moving, right? You know, some of you like to do improv. I don't call it improv. What do you call it? Not free association dance. What is it called? What's it? Elizabeth, what's it called? Moving all around and what's it? Interpretive dance. Now, who's interpreting? You know, and as we have some ballerinas in here, and like, come on, we're looking. I mean, obviously, you're the one standing on your toes. Your toes are your nails busted out a long time ago. Your feet are all bandaged. You're bleeding out the bandages. I mean, clearly, you're standing on your toes. There is a ballerina in there, right? So that's the second meditation. Okay, so let's say that you're not a body. That's irrational. But all of you, Descartes calls it a ghost in the machine. A hidden mover. There's somebody in there, you know. There's someone in there. Oh, there's a wizard behind the curtain. So let's go ahead and again bring awareness down. The cider. There's a little George.